So there's so much information in the world, some of it true, some of it not, and some of it downright intrusively creepy. But the data is coming to us, at us, and for us because someone is listening and believes we need it to have a better experience, to perhaps even have a better life. I'll tell you a quick story. I was FaceTiming a girlfriend of mine, Melbourne, Australia. I was in the comfort of my home in New Hampshire. She was walking down a country lane with her 2 dogs. And as casually as you and I might come across a pigeon, they came across a koala. And her dogs just went barking mad. She could not control them. We had to cut the call short. The very next day, in my Facebook feed, I get an advertisement for this anti-barking control mechanism that would go on their collar. And the darndest thing was, the dogs in the advertisement were 2 corgis, and that's what she owns. Yeah, creepy as hell. I don't have Siri, I don't have Alexa in my house. My husband is enough, he tells me what to do. So how did this happen and why? You probably can all intuit, but we'll get back to that in just 1 second. The world is changing faster than ever before. The universe is actually expanding. Climate change is accelerating. So it's no wonder that the workforce and the workplace is also transforming. So let's consider 3 waves of those changes. The first is expectation of workplace flexibility, right? This one is obvious. Employees want to choose where and when and how they work. The British sandwich chain, Pret a Manger, is actually now going to open stores outside of the city center because people just aren't working where they used to. And yet some employers are stubbornly clinging to those dang RTO mandates, which seems woefully out of touch with most of the demands of our employees. 37% would quit if forced to return full-time, and a full 39% would not consider a new offer that did not offer some version of hybrid. And that's a global report from Randstad. Instant gratification, the dopamine hit. We want the feel-good hormone. Amazon, Netflix, give us what we want practically instantly. Shampoo, now. Movie, now, right? And for me, full disclosure, reel after reel of really adorable puppies, now. This urgency, of course, has spilled over into the workplace. Our associates expect transparency now. They want feedback now. They want the position of choice now. So this is particularly true, I think Fiona pointed it out, as millennials, right, younger millennials born in the late 80s, early 90s, and who in a matter of single-digit years will be joined by the cohort behind them, and they will make up 75% of the workforce. So what are the implications for how you can satisfy them? We're seeing, right, the pendulum is swinging a little bit, but we should not take that for granted. And of course, lastly, a sense of belonging. The period that followed the pandemic actually made us lonelier than ever. 1 in 4 of us feel alone and isolated. And when we can't find community in the office or in person, where do we go? We go to social media. Glassdoor used to be a platform for professional networks, and now what are we seeing? Vacation pictures, coffee shots, pictures of our family, which, true enough, is all part of bringing our full selves to work. Glassdoor has now become a place for airing grievances, but those one-way commentaries are hardly ever meaningful or satisfactory. So 5 years from the onset of the pandemic, we are still trying to find ways to recreate those kind of connections that we once used to get practically every day. So what are the implications of these trends on the workplace? So organizations absolutely have to nail the fundamentals. We know this, right? A safe work environment, pay a living wage, no abuse, no harassment. That's just table stakes. We must dig deeper. Employees being thought of as a collective is not good enough. We must bring into sharp relief each employee as a unique individual. So how do we do this? Well, Facebook and Google spend billions of dollars to acquire consumer data and then relentlessly use it to craft a marketing campaign a la the corgis. They didn't get it quite right, but they thought that's what I needed, right? And information to ply me with other adjacent related material. relentless. By the same token, we need and want to keep our employees engaged with us. Every day, they are testing our value proposition. The barter is their time for our money. They can choose to spend their time any other way. So they're testing our value proposition every single moment, every morning when they wake up. So we have to ensure that they are engaging with us regularly. And just as all those companies have data about me, about you, we sit on mounds of employee data. How are you using that to deliver the right employee journey? Typically, we need economies of scale to grow. We no longer have that as an excuse. Data is cheaper, faster, easier to acquire than ever before. And if you're not investing in that, you're going to miss this wave. So, the hyper-individualization of the employee is upon us. Cue, dun, dun, dun. So I submit to you that we should go back to first principles, foundations of our people strategy, and there are 5 to consider. Let's go back to the easy one, workplace flexibility. A very new study from the University of Pittsburgh surveyed 500 Standard & Poor's companies and found that being in the office does not improve profitability and in fact causes a sharp decline in employee satisfaction. We already intuited that, but now we have empirical evidence to know that that's true. And in fact, employees recognize that these mandates to return to the office are really just a means for senior leadership to exercise control. And that is a win-lose proposition. When employers exercise control, that necessitates a loss of autonomy. And employees don't like that. Our research from the Harvard Business Review magazine shows that there is a huge disconnect between what employees want and what they need, what they get in terms of flexibility. So what we need to do is bring those dots closer together, and I would say bring them closer to the orange, to what employees want. Hyper-individualization, actually, when this is done right, hybrid work can deliver 10 to 15% greater productivity. Why? Because they have a sense of autonomy, not because they're more productive working from home, because I know I'm doing laundry, but because I feel more agency, and that delivers a sense of satisfaction to how my employee experience is living up to my desires. Okay, let's talk about pay, and more specifically, pay transparency. Traditional pay systems have relied on obfuscation, right? We hide the market position, our levels, our pay bands, and how each job sits in them. But the fact of the matter is that data is out there. Earlier career employees have no compunction with posting their salaries. In fact, a third of them would happily share them on LinkedIn. So again, our research last year found that when employees are shown the correlation between strong performance and high pay, productivity improves. And in fact, when it's revealed that some employees are disproportionately paid well, so they're meh, but they're still really paid well, guess what? Productivity still improves. Why is that? Well, we think it's because these folks need to justify their worth. So either way, if there is a correlation between performance and pay, you deliver value to the organization. So hyper-personalization in compensation, therefore, means demonstrating the specific link between their performance and their pay. 2/3 believe they're not paid enough because most of us believe we're really special. Okay? So to help match perception with reality, again, we turn to data. Years of work, kind of expertise, the kind of experience, but we also have information like date of last promotion, whether or not they now lead people, are they taking on a different scope, even peer feedback. So then all of that is taken together. You've suddenly empowered the employee with the knowledge to know what drives their pay. Because nobody's a cookie cutter. Everybody looks slightly different. And when you can do that repeatably and scalably, then you can deliver satisfaction, a hyper-individualized pay experience that meets each of their needs. We recently undertook a pay equity audit at HBP, and we were fortunate enough to find that there was no statistical difference between roles that could not be explained by credible factors That is an exercise each of you should take your organization through. And if you do, do it under counsel advisement, because otherwise it becomes discoverable. But again, what it demonstrated was that our pay for performance program actually works. Okay, third, career progression. So here we're seeing a really odd duality. On the one hand, only 54% of employees consider themselves ambitious. A full 34% have any interest at all in taking our jobs. They're looking behind and they're saying, we don't want what you're selling. Okay, so there's a dearth of talent coming up from behind us. So that means that the traditional ladder of associate to manager to director to CEO is no longer universally appealing. So in fact, entrepreneurship hit new heights in the pandemic. People wanting to work for themselves. They wanted to carve out a completely different journey. On the other hand, those who are interested in rising through the ranks are waiting for less and less time for that to happen. This is the average tenure, 5 years in the US, 10 years in the OECD. So you guys are still much more patient than us Americans. But in any case, lack of advancement opportunities still ranks as one of the top 1 or 2 reasons why people leave organizations. So organizations need to create pathways that are appealing to each employee's own vision of career success. In response to the same phenomenon at my organization, we created 20 different career ladders. And I'll give you, this is the example of the HR one. And what we did was we defined specific technical competencies for each of those 20 jobs. And it created all sorts of transparency. So you knew what was important in marketing, you knew what was important in sales, and furthermore, you knew that if you needed to become a director, you needed to achieve mastery in at least 2 or 3. There was some permutation to that. And so now we've created an internal marketplace that is fully open for all the employees to take advantage of. I'll give you a quick story. We had a marketing director who really wanted to join the HR team because she was interested in working in HR. Some of her skills were transferable, some of them were not. So she came over as a senior manager, and it was not a great fuss because she understood the expectations. It facilitated this whole conversation that maybe a year ago would have been so much more difficult because it wasn't obscured. This is enough for a whole other talk. I'd be happy to unpack it. I'm the only Angela Cheng-Cimini on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. My team and I are very proud of this work, so happy to talk to you about it. And this career ladder is bookended by values and leadership. So it is a whole total system around the things that are important for performance. L&D, learning and development. Contemporary attention spans, 280 characters, 15-second TikTok videos have changed how information is delivered and indeed how it's absorbed. And with employees already feeling overwhelmed at work, too many Zoom meetings back-to-back, finding time for professional development, forget about flow in the work, right? There's no flow. There's no time to carve that out, which means that training has to be much, much more consumable. So you've likely seen this chart, Josh Bersin, and I dared to update it and add a new column. I'm sure he's got a newer version, I just couldn't find it quite yet, right? But since the launch of ChatGPT, AI has gone mainstream. And so now we can have intelligent, machine-driven, personalized learning experiences. And soon enough, we'll be able to use text to video to create content that's even more bespoke. So I've heard tell that AI will even pinpoint the exact moment within a podcast to deliver the content I want. I don't have to watch 60 minutes to get the 1 minute that really speaks to what I need. So it's bits and bytes, what I call microdose learning, that will soothe whatever ails me on demand. On the other hand, coming together in person, in classrooms with other students might be exactly what a learner wants. It's all about finding out what that person needs. So in my organization, we've created a process where employees apply for a learning grant. The learning experience has to be jointed with our business strategy, and it has to upskill those things that they really need to do their work better. But also importantly, they identify the modality. Is it a virtual course? Is it asynchronous? Is it live? Is it a killer week, or does it take place over several months? Whatever it is the learning experience that they want best. Grant applications have doubled since we've done that. And lastly, culture. 2 data points to consider. Our research shows that 82% of the time, organizations fail to put the right talent in place. Consider the implications of that as you're trying to weed through, the 63% who want to be managers. But I think, as Fiona said, we all know what really drives culture. 70% of the variance in team engagement is based upon your experience with your direct line manager. The manager assigns the work. They create the health of the immediate environment and either destroys or enhances self-esteem. It is hyper-personalisation writ large. To that end, organizations must ensure that managers are equipped to create the most enabling work experiences. 20 years ago, we published an article that I believe is still true that identifies the one skill that the most effective leaders have: emotional intelligence. EI is the ability to regulate your own emotions, to read the room, to understand what makes other people tick, to get the most and best out of them. Emotional intelligence is what allows managers to tap into what makes each unique employee the top of their game. While some managers are naturally born with this instinct, it can be acquired and it must be practiced. Self-awareness, empathy, and relationship management are all elements that are critical to EI. And I'm co-opting a phrase I heard elsewhere, and I'm now calling these power skills because they deliver much more impact than soft skills can. And when we couple power skills with the right data, you can create an environment where relationships, where employees are seen, heard, and respected, are developed and realized. And let's not forget that our managers are also people and need to similarly have a great experience. More than half of managers are feeling burned out at work, and it's no wonder. They sit at the intersection of strategy and execution. They are both player and coach, so we need to make sure that they're happy too. The cumulative effect of all these synaptic experiences drives the total health of an organization. We know there are pain points in your organization, so we should be listening continuously, not episodically. You wouldn't ignore symptoms in your body and say, well, I'm not due for my annual physical, right? Check in and deliver the remedy at the most micro unit of your organization, the employee. And there are many other areas within HR where hyper-individualization lives: corporate values and how they align with personal values, the physical design of an office to provide the optimal setting where people can be productive and can think and can process. But the upshot of all this is, again, satisfying the uniques of the employee pay off. There is real economic value to be delivered and realized. Companies that focus on the employee experience are 4 times more profitable than those that don't. Just as Amazon and Netflix deploy data to deliver a great customer journey, we too should be crafting marketing campaigns to create a great employee journey. So your managers become brand managers, your senior leaders, brand ambassadors, and we are chief marketing officers. Each of these campaigns requires data. In what ways does James want to be recognized? What kind of coaching does Abdul want? What element of total rewards is most important to Sophia? As practitioners and devotees of HR, we must become much more data and technologically literate. As a function, we must make the investments so that we can mine for the right data and deploy them against our people strategy. I have no doubt that the ROI will be tangible and in the form of improved worker satisfaction, retention, and of course, productivity. So despite working fewer hours, the global negative response index remains at all-time highs. Increasingly, we as employers are being asked to serve on a societal scale. We're responsible for training and educating and upskilling people, for providing supplemental health and welfare benefits, to provide security in retirement long after they've stopped working for us. And indeed, we've even been called upon to cure loneliness. It's a tremendous burden to bear. But through the data you already have, we can rise to that challenge and meet each employee where they are to manifest a much more meaningful work experience. Your CFO knows the numbers. We, as Chief People Officer, need to know our employees as well. And we should use data and be human-centric at the same time. And when we do this, we can apply the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would want to be done for them. We have the data, we have the technology, and I know that we have always had the resolve. Let's go do it. Thank you.